I'm Regina, sitting on the balcony of my new apartment, a pizza box between Emily and me, and cheap wine in our hands. I look at the city lights below. It's been a journey, and I'm now at a place of peace that was once a distant dream. 2 months ago, I finally deleted the family group chat. No final message, no goodbye. Just like that, I cut off the constant stream of fake emergencies and guilt-cloaked demands. It was strange at first, this quiet. The silence that once felt heavy now feels like a warm embrace of freedom. But it wasn't always this way. Before all this, I was trapped in a web of family expectations and treatment that made me feel like an outsider. I'm a fourth-grade teacher, and my life was a simple one. Lesson plans, cafeteria coffee, and the lingering smell of dry erase markers on my clothes were my norm. My family, however, was another story. I grew up in a family where my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were self-centered and manipulative. My father, a 55-year-old salesman, was always quick with a cutting remark. My mother, a 52-year-old homemaker, used guilt as a weapon to get what she wanted. My older brother, Jake, 28, was a laid-back guy who went along with whatever the parents said. My younger sister, Lily, 25, was the spoiled one, always making demands and expecting things to go her way. I used to bend over backward for them. Weekends were for my family. I'd drive 40 minutes out of my way to fix their Wi-Fi router, pay for a plumber when they couldn't afford it, or pick up groceries when their card declined. They'd thank me, post family photos on social media, but somehow always forget to tag me. I used to take pride in being useful. It made me feel like I belonged. But my friend, Lucy, saw things differently. She's a 30-year-old accountant, calm and practical, the kind of person who plans every detail of her life with precision. One day last spring, she said to me, "You know, they only call you when something goes wrong." I laughed it off. I told her she didn't understand the concept of family. I said guilt was our family's love language. She just gave me a look, clearly not finding it funny. Then there was that weekend in the mountains. A cheap, 3-day cabin trip, just a short break from grading papers and my family's constant demands. I didn't post a single photo on social media, but my cousin Mia did. One picture of me and Lucy smiling against the snow was all it took. 2 days later, the texts started pouring in. Jake was the first. "Wow, looks like you've forgotten about your family." Then Lily, "You've really changed." And my mother's message, which sounded sweet but was like a dagger in my heart. "We've always been here for you, but when you get time off, you just disappear like we don't matter." They managed to turn a simple weekend getaway into a betrayal. By the end of the week, I was the villain in their story, the selfish daughter who abandoned them. Lucy advised me not to go to the family barbecue. She said it felt like a setup. But when my mother called, her voice all bright and promising that it would be a great family get-together, I believed her. I always did. That Sunday, I brought a decent bottle of red wine. I even practiced how to sound casual, how to maybe smooth things over without really apologizing. I told myself this might be the moment when things would go back to normal. How wrong I was. When I walked onto the patio, the air was thick with the smell of grilled meat and an uncomfortable tension. My father was at the grill, tongs in hand, acting like it was just an ordinary day. Jake was leaning against the cooler, his second beer in hand. Lily was scrolling through her phone, looking utterly bored. My mother was setting the table, humming softly. When I entered with the wine, no one seemed surprised, but no one said hello either. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "It looks great out here." "Yeah," my father replied without even looking up. We started early. It was obvious what he meant. I was late. I sat down, trying to ignore the awkward silence. My mother slid a plate in front of me. "So," she said, "how's Lucy?" "She's good," I replied, hoping that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. "That's nice," she said with a thin smile. No follow-up question, just a silence that felt like it was swallowing the conversation whole. I tried to make small talk with Jake about his new job. He just grunted. Lily snorted. The laughter that followed was sharp, even if it wasn't loud. I forced a laugh along with them, pretending not to notice the edge in their voices. Then I made the fatal mistake. I said, "I can't wait for our vacation." I thought it was just innocent small talk. But my father froze for a split second, then let out that deep, fake laugh he always used when he was about to say something cruel. "It's only for family. Without you." The patio erupted in laughter. Jake slapped his knee, Lily wheezed, and my mother raised her wine glass, smiling as if it were a toast. For a moment, I just sat there, my ears ringing. I waited for someone to say it was a joke, for my father to wink, or my mother to scold him. But no, it was deliberate. They wanted to see if I'd break. I didn't. I looked around the table at my so-called family, all of them laughing at my expense. I felt the heat rise in my neck, followed by a cold realization. This wasn't the first time they'd humiliated me, but it was the first time I saw their actions for what they were, a performance to keep me in my place, small and apologetic. So I did something unexpected. I stayed silent. I nodded calmly and said, "Got it." Then I stood up, left the untouched bottle of wine on the table, and walked away. The laughter faded behind me, replaced by the sound of cicadas and the dull thud of my own heartbeat. In the car, I sat for a long time before starting the engine. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from a new, found clarity. I had spent years paying their bills, solving their problems, and in one sentence, they had made it clear where I stood, outside their circle. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing with messages. "You know Dad was just joking, right? Don't be so dramatic. You always ruin things." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the banking app and looked at the joint account I had foolishly kept open after years of helping them with emergencies. The balance stared back at me, and I thought about closing it right then. But I held off, a part of me wanting to see how far they'd go when they realized I wasn't going to cave in. It didn't take long. 5 days later, my phone lit up with a notification, a withdrawal attempt of $5,000. That was the turning point. If they wanted me out of the family, I'd give them exactly what they asked for. I stared at the notification until the screen dimmed. My coffee went cold. I called the bank, my voice calm. "Block the card," I said. The representative immediately asked if I wanted to file fraud. I almost laughed. "No," I replied. "It's family." When the confirmation email arrived, I went back into the app. The account name read Family Fund. I pressed edit, deleted every letter, and typed pay without me. For a moment, I just looked at it. It perfectly summed up the years of guilt and humiliation. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing again. My mother texted, "Hey, did you touch the account?" My father followed with, "Your mother made a mistake, fix it." Lily sent a laughing emoji, and Jake asked, "What's your problem?" I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot of the account name and the failed transaction and sent it to the family group chat. No caption, just evidence. Then I put my phone face down and went for a walk. The late summer air was sticky, but my mind was clear. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about how to apologize or make things right. I was done. When I got back, the group chat was filled with 40 messages. My mother wrote, "This is ridiculous. We needed that money for the holidays." My father said, "After all we've done for you." Lily mocked me with LMAO, "You're actually insane." And Jake told me to grow up. I read every message and then archived the chat, not deleting it, just putting it away like a document that might one day be shown to a lawyer. Lucy found me sitting on the couch, my legs tucked under a blanket, staring at my dark phone screen. She didn't ask what happened. She just said, "You finally did it, didn't you?" I nodded. "Yeah." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Inside, my phone started vibrating again with new messages. I ignored them. They wanted chaos. I was giving them silence. The next morning, my phone was filled with 16 missed calls and a flurry of messages oscillating between outrage and desperation. The family group chat had turned into a battlefield of accusations, each of them blaming someone else for losing control of the account. My mother claimed she didn't know the withdrawal was that large. My father called me petty and embarrassing. Lily posted a screenshot of the bank's rejection notice as if it were some kind of family meme. I muted the group. By lunchtime, my mother showed up at my school. The secretary buzzed me, saying, "There's a Mrs. Thompson here. She says it's urgent." I stepped into the hallway, my heart steady. My mother was standing there, holding her purse like a prop in a well-rehearsed play. "You blocked the card?" she asked, her voice soft and trembling in all the right places. "Yes," I replied. She blinked rapidly, trying to force tears but failing. "We just needed it for the holidays," she pleaded. I folded my arms. "You tried to take $5,000 without even asking me." "It was for the family," she insisted. I gave her a small smile. "You said I wasn't family, remember?" Her mouth opened and closed, clearly not expecting that response. "Regina," she finally said, "you're overreacting. You're being cruel." That word cruel hit me harder than all their previous laughter. For years, they had taken from me and called it love. Now, me saying no was considered cruelty. "I have to get back to class," I said. "You should go." Her voice cracked as she said my name, but I walked away before I could start to care again. 2 days later, I came home to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My first thought was that I had forgotten to lock it. When I heard voices inside, my second thought was even worse. My parents were in my living room, along with Lily. Lily was sprawled on the couch, shoes off, scrolling through her phone, and there was a half-eaten bag of chips on the coffee table. "What are you doing here?" I asked. My mother turned with that same fake calm. "You weren't answering our calls. Because you tried to steal from me," I shot back. My father stepped forward, his voice full of false authority. "Watch your tone. We're still your parents." "Then act like it," I retorted. He scoffed. "You've changed ever since you started hanging out with Lucy." Lucy, who was standing at the door holding a take-out bag like a shield, said evenly, "You broke into my apartment. That's not okay." "This is family business," my mother snapped. I felt my last bit of patience snap. "No," I said firmly. "This is trespassing." They didn't move. Lily just laughed softly without looking up and called me a drama queen. I walked to the door and opened it wide. "Get out," I commanded. My mother's eyes narrowed, the fake sweetness replaced by coldness. "You're going to regret this." "I already do," I said and shut the door behind them. The silence that followed was like a cleansing balm. That night, I called my mother's sister, Aunt Diane. She was the family's black sheep, and I hadn't spoken to her in years. When she answered, she didn't sound surprised. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said. She invited me over that evening. Her small house smelled of cedar and old books. Before I could say anything, she handed me a thick folder. "Your mother has been manipulating people for years. You're just the latest," she said. Inside the folder were records of payments, old transfers, and even hand-signed notes from the times she had borrowed money from Aunt Diane and never paid it back. $10,000 for a home renovation in 2015 and another $5,000 for a supposed medical emergency that turned out to be a shopping spree in Paris. I felt sick to my stomach. "She said you were unstable," I murmured. Aunt Diane laughed. "Of course she did. It's easier to hide the truth when people think you're crazy." We spent hours comparing stories. The pattern was clear. Borrow, lie, guilt, trip, repeat. Aunt Diane poured wine into 2 mismatched glasses and said, "I can help you, but you have to be ready for them to hate you even more." I smiled for the first time in weeks. They already do. Over the next few days, with the help of Aunt Diane's friend, a financial compliance expert, I cut off every tie with my parents. I closed the last joint account and then sent a screenshot of the zero balance account named Pay Without Me to the family group chat. No caption, just silence. Jake was the first to respond. "What the hell is this?" Lily followed with, "You're losing it." My mother called me 6 times in an hour, but I didn't answer. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Aunt Diane had posted old photos of my parents in fancy casinos, sipping cocktails, with timestamps that overlapped with the months they claimed to be broke. She didn't tag them. She didn't need to. Within minutes, My cousins were texting me, asking if it was true. My father's sister messaged me, saying I had humiliated my mother. I just stared at the screen, feeling no trace of the guilt they were trying to impose on me. That evening, my mother showed up at my doorstep with her brother, Uncle Henry. Uncle Henry was standing behind her, arms crossed, wearing sunglasses even though it was almost dark. My mother looked tired, but it was a calculated tiredness.
"We came to talk," she said.
I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "You shouldn't be here." Uncle Henry jumped in. "You embarrassed the family. That post was out of line." I almost laughed. "Out of line is trying to drain my bank account." "She made a mistake," he snapped. "She made a choice." I corrected. My mother lifted her hands in a mock surrender. "We just want peace." We canceled the trip. We thought maybe we could start over. It was the same old game, pretending like nothing had happened. "I'm not going anywhere with you," I said. "If you show up uninvited again, I'll file a report." Uncle Henry scoffed. "You'd threaten your own mother?" I met his stare. "No, I'm protecting my life." My mother's expression changed from shock to pity to contempt. "You've changed," she said, as if it were the worst thing in the world. "I have," I said quietly. "And I'm not sorry." They walked away without another word. 2 days later, I received an email from the school district. It was a notice of concern, demanding immediate acknowledgement. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint claiming I was emotionally unstable and creating a hostile classroom environment. I looked at Lucy, and she took my hand. "They found a new way to attack," I said. "Then we find a new way to end it," she replied. I called Aunt Diane and forwarded the complaint. She said, "Anonymous?
Huh.
Give me a day." The next afternoon, she called back. Got her. It was Lily's college IP, no VPN. Amateur move. I brought all the evidence, emails, messages, and screenshots to a lawyer recommended by Aunt Diane. Her name was MS. Carter, a calm and sharp-eyed woman who didn't bat an eyelid at family drama masquerading as fraud. She looked through the documents and said, "We'll start with a no contact order, temporary at first, then permanent." It was like finally being able to breathe after years of suffocation. Within a week, the school board cleared my name. HR apologized quietly, and my principal told me to take a few days off, with pay. I said, "Thank you," but what I really meant was finally. My mother tried to call one more time, but I didn't answer. The final message she sent was, "You'll regret cutting us out. Family is forever." I deleted it without a second thought. That night, Lucy and I started packing boxes. We found a new 2-bedroom apartment with sunlight that actually reached the floor and a kitchen window overlooking a park. When I turned the key in the new lock, I felt a tightness in my chest that had been there for years finally loosen. Aunt Diane came by with pizza and cheap wine. As we sat on the floor eating, she said, "You know, they'll probably keep talking. They always need someone to blame." I smiled. Let them. I'm not in their story anymore. Now, as I sit here with Lucy, looking at my phone with no missed calls or unread messages, just the words "pay without me" in my banking app, I feel a sense of freedom. They said I wasn't family, and maybe they were right. A real family doesn't make you beg to belong. So, if you're in a similar situation, would you finally have the courage to make them pay without you?